I never thought I'd find myself dreading Thanksgiving dinner, but as I stood on Patricia Anderson's perfectly manicured front lawn, my stomach was in knots. The sprawling colonial house loomed before me, warm light spilling from its windows, the scent of roasting turkey wafting through the air. It should have felt welcoming. Instead, it felt like walking into a lion's den. "You okay, babe?" Michael squeezed my hand, his concerned eyes meeting mine. My husband of 5 years was the only reason I still attended these family gatherings. Without him, I would have cut ties with his mother long ago. "I'm fine," I lied, forcing a smile. "Just hoping your mother remembers I'm allergic to pecans this year." Michael winced. We both knew last year's accidental pecan pie incident wasn't really an accident. Patricia Anderson didn't forget anything, especially not details she could use against people she considered unworthy of her precious son. "Emma, she promised to behave this year," Michael said softly, but I could hear the doubt in his voice. His mother had made similar promises before, yet somehow always managed to slip in her cutting remarks and subtle jabs about my shortcomings as a wife. Taking a deep breath, I smoothed down my carefully chosen dress, an expensive burgundy number that even Patricia couldn't criticize, and nodded. "Let's just get this over with." The door swung open before we could ring the bell, revealing Patricia in all her perfectly coiffed glory. Her silver hair was styled immaculately, her designer dress probably cost more than my monthly salary, and her smile was as artificial as the autumn wreaths decorating her door. "Michael, darling," she embraced her son, deliberately turning her shoulder to me. "And, Emma, you're looking healthy." The way she said healthy made it sound like an insult. In Patricia speak, it probably meant she thought I'd gained weight. I bit back a retort and forced myself to smile. "Happy Thanksgiving, Patricia. The house smells wonderful." She didn't acknowledge my compliment, already turning to lead Michael inside with a stream of questions about his work at the hospital. I followed behind them, my heels clicking on the marble floor of the foyer, trying to remind myself why I put up with this treatment. Right, because Michael was worth it. The house was full of relatives, Michael's sister Kate and her perfect husband, and 3 perfect children. His Aunt Susan and Uncle George, cousins I still couldn't keep straight after 5 years of marriage. They all greeted Michael warmly while giving me those awkward, pitying looks I'd grown accustomed to. The black sheep of the Anderson family. The barren wife who couldn't give Patricia grandchildren. "Emma," a warm voice cut through my dark thoughts. "Come help me in the kitchen." Hannah, one of Patricia's oldest friends, waved me over. She was new to these gatherings. I only met her a few times, but she'd always been kind to me. More importantly, she seemed immune to Patricia's attempts to freeze her out when she showed me kindness. "Dinner's almost ready," Hannah said as I followed her into the kitchen. "Would you mind helping me with the place cards? Patricia's very particular about the seating arrangements." Of course she was. I picked up the elegant name cards, noting without surprise that I'd been seated at the far end of the table, away from Michael and the rest of the immediate family. "How long have you known Patricia?" I asked, trying to distract myself from the slight. "Oh, years and years," Hannah replied, checking something in the oven. "I was her nurse back when she had Michael. Such a difficult pregnancy, poor thing. She was in and out of the hospital for months." Before I could ask more questions, Patricia swept into the kitchen. "Hannah, darling, are you boring Emma with ancient history? Come, everyone's ready to be seated." The dining room was a showcase of Patricia's wealth and taste. Crystal glasses sparkled under the chandelier, fine china gleamed on the tablecloth, and autumn flowers filled antique vases. 20 people crowded around the massive table, all of them somehow looking like they'd stepped out of a magazine advertisement for the perfect family. I made my way to my assigned seat, trying not to feel hurt when Michael was directed to sit between his mother and his sister. 4 places away from me, at least I had Hannah next to me, a small mercy in Patricia's careful orchestration. "Before we begin," Patricia announced, standing and tapping her crystal glass with a silver spoon, "I'd like to make an announcement." My heart sank. Patricia's announcements were never good news for me. "As you all know, family is everything to me," she began, her voice carrying that false warmth I'd grown to dread. "And as I get older, I've been thinking more about my legacy, about ensuring the Anderson family name continues to represent the values and standards we hold dear." Her eyes found mine across the table, and I felt my face heat up. "Here it comes. That's why I've made some changes to my will, changes that reflect my hopes for the future of this family." She paused, letting the tension build. I've decided that my estate will be divided among those family members who have proven themselves worthy of the Anderson name. Those who understand the importance of family and have contributed to its growth and continuation. The room was silent. Everyone knew where this was going. Unfortunately, Patricia continued, her voice dripping with false sympathy, that means some difficult decisions had to be made. Emma, dear, I hope you understand. 5 years of marriage and well, some people simply aren't cut out for the responsibilities of being an Anderson. Your failure to provide my son with children has made it clear that perhaps you're not quite what this family needs. The silence in the room was deafening. I could feel tears burning behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of her. Mother. Michael's voice cut through the silence, angry and sharp. But before he could continue, another voice spoke up, calm, clear, and carrying an authority that made everyone turn. Actually, Mrs. Anderson, Hannah said, setting down her fork with deliberate care, I think it's time we discuss something about Michael's medical records from 1992. The color drained from Patricia's face so quickly I thought she might faint. Patricia's fingers tightened around her wine glass. Hannah, she said, her voice sharp with warning, this is hardly the time or place. Oh, I think it's exactly the time and place, Hannah interrupted, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to Patricia's growing panic. You see, Emma dear, I wasn't just any nurse at the hospital. I was the head nurse in the pediatric unit when Michael was born, and I handled all of his early medical records. Michael leaned forward, his brow furrowed. What are you talking about? What records? Hannah's eyes never left Patricia's face. Your mother never told you about the genetic testing they did when you were 13, after that bout of pneumonia. Mother. Michael turned to Patricia, whose face had gone from pale to ashen. What is she talking about? Patricia stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor. This is completely inappropriate. Hannah, I think you should leave. Your son has Klinefelter syndrome, Hannah announced, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent table. It was diagnosed during his hospital stay in 1992. One of the main symptoms is infertility. The words hung in the air like smoke. I felt as though all the oxygen had been sucked from the room. That's impossible, Michael stammered, but I could see the realization dawning in his eyes. We'd been trying for a baby for 5 years. All those tests I'd undergone, all those treatments, all those tears, and he'd been the one who couldn't. The medical records are quite clear, Hannah continued, reaching into her purse and pulling out a thick manila envelope. I kept copies of everything when I retired. Call it a habit from seeing too many parents hide important medical information from their children. Patricia's face had transformed into a mask of fury. You had no right to keep those records. That was private medical information. Information you should have shared with your son before he got married, Hannah countered. Information that could have saved this poor girl years of blame and humiliation. All around the table, relatives were exchanging shocked glances. Kate, Michael's sister, had her hand pressed to her mouth. Her 3 children, for once, weren't glued to their phones, instead watching the drama unfold with wide eyes. Michael's voice cracked. He turned to me, his face stricken. Emma, I had no idea. All this time, you've been going through treatments and Mother, how could you let us go through that? Patricia's carefully maintained composure cracked. I was protecting you. Do you think I wanted everyone to know my son was what, Mother? Michael's voice was deadly quiet. Infertile? Less than perfect. Is that why you've been torturing Emma for years? To cover up your own shame. I sat frozen in my chair, watching years of carefully constructed lies crumble around us. All those snide comments about my inadequacy as a wife, all those pointed remarks about adoption being for people too lazy to try harder. All those times Patricia had cornered me at family events to suggest new fertility doctors or experimental treatments. The worst part, Hannah said, still eerily calm, is that Klinefelter syndrome is completely manageable. With proper treatment from childhood, many men go on to live completely normal lives. Some even father children through assisted reproduction. But you denied your son that chance, didn't you, Patricia? Because you couldn't bear the thought of anyone knowing your perfect son wasn't. What did you just say? Worthy of the Anderson name. Aunt Susan made a small choking sound. Uncle George was staring at his plate as if it held the secrets of the universe. The perfect Thanksgiving turkey sat cooling in the center of the table, forgotten. "I think," Michael said, standing slowly, "that Emma and I should leave." He looked around the table, his face hard. "And Mother? You can do whatever you want with your will. We won't be needing it." I stood on shaky legs, my mind still reeling from the revelations. As I turned to leave, Hannah pressed the manila envelope into my hands. "Get a good fertility specialist to look at these," she whispered. "There are options you haven't explored because you didn't have all the information." We were almost to the door when Patricia's voice rang out, shrill and desperate. "Michael, please. Everything I did was for you. I was trying to protect you." Michael turned back, his hand firm in mine. "No, Mother. Everything you did was for yourself. And you didn't just hurt me, you spent years hurting the woman I love to protect your own pride." As we walked out into the crisp November air, leaving behind the sounds of Patricia's protests and the murmur of shocked relatives, I felt something shift inside me. 5 years of guilt and inadequacy began to lift, replaced by a strange mix of anger and relief. "Emma," Michael said as we reached the car, his voice breaking. "I am so sorry. I had no idea." 1 year later, I found myself standing in front of Patricia's house again. But everything was different. The colonial still loomed large, the lawn was still perfectly manicured, but the power it once held over me had vanished. Amazing what a year of therapy, medical consultations, and truth can do. "Ready?" Michael squeezed my hand, just like he had that fateful Thanksgiving night. But his eyes were lighter now, unburdened by secrets he hadn't even known he was carrying. "More than ready," I said with a smile, touching my slightly rounded belly. At 4 months pregnant, thanks to IVF and the right medical team, our miracle was finally happening. We hadn't told the family yet, well, except for Hannah, who had become like a second mother to us both. The door opened before we could knock. Patricia stood there, looking smaller somehow. Her silver hair was still perfect, her clothes still expensive, but something had changed in her bearing. A year of most of the family keeping her at arm's length had taken its toll. "Michael, Emma," she said softly, and for the first time in our relationship, she looked me in the eye. "Please come in." The house was quieter this year. Only immediate family had been invited, Kate and her family, Hannah, and us. Patricia's attempt at making amends started with a smaller, more intimate gathering. "Emma," Kate hurried over as soon as we entered, hugging me tight. Our relationship had transformed over the past year. Her guilt over staying silent during her mother's treatment of me had turned into fierce protectiveness. "You're glowing. Is it the new treatment Dr. Martinez suggested?" I shared a secret smile with Michael. "Something like that." Hannah was already in the kitchen, supervising the meal preparation. She'd insisted on helping, probably to ensure there were no accidents with ingredients this year. She winked at me as we passed. "Before we eat," Patricia said once everyone was seated, her voice trembling slightly, "I want to say something." She took a deep breath, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. "This past year has been enlightening. My therapist," she glanced at Michael, acknowledging the counseling he'd insisted on as a condition for maintaining any relationship, "has helped me understand the damage my pride and fear caused." The room was silent. Even Kate's children seemed to sense the importance of the moment. "Emma," Patricia turned to me, her eyes glistening, "I owe you the deepest apology. What I did to you, the blame, the shame, the cruelty, it was unforgivable. I was so afraid of facing my own failures as a mother that I turned you into a scapegoat. I can never undo the years of pain I caused you." I felt Michael's hand find mine under the table as his mother continued. "And Michael, my son," her voice cracked, "keeping your medical condition from you was the worst thing I've ever done as a mother. I robbed you of choices, of understanding your own body, of the chance to address this years ago. My shame became your burden, and then Emma's, and I will regret that for the rest of my life." Hannah reached over and patted Patricia's hand, a gesture of support that would have been unthinkable a year ago. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," Patricia said, wiping her eyes, "but I'm hoping you'll give me the chance to try to earn it. To be the mother and mother-in-law you both deserve." Michael and I exchanged glances, having discussed this moment for weeks. I nodded slightly, and he smiled. "Actually, Mother," Michael said, "we have something to tell you. Something that might help us all move forward." He squeezed my hand, and I took my cue. We're pregnant, I announced, watching emotions flash across Patricia's face. Shock, joy, and then uncertainty, as if she wasn't sure she had the right to be happy about this news. 4 months along, Michael added, thanks to Dr. Martinez and the genetic counseling team at the fertility clinic, the same team that could have helped us years ago if we'd known about my condition. Patricia flinched at the gentle rebuke, but nodded. I don't know what to say, except, thank you. Thank you for giving me the chance to be part of this joy, even though I don't deserve it. The past is the past, I said, surprising myself with how much I meant it. What matters now is the future, and this baby is going to need all the love and support they can get, including from their grandmother. For the first time in 5 years of marriage, I saw Patricia Anderson cry real tears. Not the carefully crafted drops she'd used to manipulate situations, but genuine, messy, emotional tears. The rest of the evening was different from any Anderson family gathering I'd ever attended. We talked openly about Michael's condition, about our fertility journey, about hopes and fears and regrets. Kate's children asked innocent questions about their future cousin, making plans to be the best older cousins ever. As we left that night, Patricia hugged me, really hugged me, for the first time. Thank you, she whispered, for being stronger than my weakness. Driving home, Michael asked, are you really okay with giving her another chance? I thought about it, my hand resting on our growing miracle. You know what? I am. Not for her, not even for us, but for this little one. They deserve to grow up knowing that people can change, that forgiveness is possible, and that love is stronger than pride. Michael smiled, taking my hand. When did you get so wise? Probably around the time your mother's old nurse taught me that sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising above and moving forward. And as we drove home through the autumn night, I felt truly thankful for the first time in years. Thankful for Hannah's courage, for Michael's love, for our growing baby, and yes, even thankful for the chance to break the cycle of pride and secrets that had haunted the Anderson family for so long.